Okay, so in this particular video, I'm going to go over the concept of something called a function and just basically give you the definitions. We'll get into more of particular kinds of functions later on, but for this one, I just want to give you the basic definition. So let's get to it. A function can be defined as this. For any member of a domain, so let me just write this out. For any member of a domain, there is one and only one. There is one and only one. That's kind of important. I'll tell you why. Member of the range to which it corresponds. Now you're thinking to yourself, gosh, what does that mean? Okay, so for any member of a domain, there is one and only one member of the range to which it corresponds. Okay, so let me give you some examples of what that might mean. Okay, so the first thing we need to probably define is what is a domain. And if I could draw it graphically, it might look something like this. And then we said that there was a range. And we said that there is only one correspondence or corresponding feature there, right? Correspondence. So that's really kind of graphically what I just said up here. Now, if you look at this in terms of what you've learned in algebra or in math, another way of saying domain is an x value. Okay? And after you put an x value through some kind of a process, right, you'll produce a y value. There's only going to be one and exactly one y value to which the x corresponds. Now, if you think of that in terms of your x and y axis, right, what you produce here is a coordinate or an ordered pair. Okay? Now, the correspondence in this particular case is called the function. It's a particular kind of correspondence. When you have a x value that produces only one y value, or this particular ordered pair, that's when you have something called a function. All right. Now, let me go ahead and continue to show you what that might look like. So, for example, let's say I have an x value, and I'm going to put it through some kind of a correspondence, or in this case, a function. I can call this a function machine if you want, right? And I'm going to produce some kind of a y. And let's say that my function is something like 2x plus 1. This is just an example, all right? If I were to put in, oh, actually, notice I kept saying put in. These are also called inputs. These are also called domains. And this is also called an output. And this is also called the range. This is also called in, for those of you later on, when you get into like statistics and that sort of thing, this is called an independent value. And this is called a dependent value. Because the y is dependent on the x, right? So whatever comes into this machine, if I have like a particular value, like let's say 3, and I put it through this function, all right? Think of it like that. So I'm going to say 2 times 3, because I'm going to put, wherever I see x, I'm going to put in the 3, and I'm going to evaluate that. I'm going to get 6 plus 1 is 7, and my y value, or my output, is 7. And remember I said that from that you produce an ordered pair, 3, 7. Okay? And that's basically what a function is. Okay, so down along this line here, I want you to think of all your inputs as these are all synonyms of one another, all right? The independent value, the x, the input, the domain, and then whatever number you actually start using. Along this particular line, I want you to think of these as the outputs or the y's. And the other way of saying that is dependent value, y, output, or range, right? And what you produce from these things is always an ordered pair. And again, the particular definition of a function is that for any member of the domain, so for any x, there is one and only one y, which you will correspond, all right? If you have something else, let's say, for example, you put in 3 and you produced a different answer, something like this. Well, let's just think of something. Well, actually, I can't think of anything right off the bat. But let's say I was able to produce an equation or a function that gave me 2 y values. Let's say something like 4 and -4. That would not be a function, okay? And that is something called a relation. And that's something I'll show you in a different video. Okay, I hope that was helpful.